Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
He set the record for the most sacks in NFL history before turning 25, but then he had that neck injury a couple of years ago. I think he'd had enough of Mike Zimmer as well. I think that was part of it, frankly. And, he's been off track the past few years. Although, look, he did have 10.5 sacks last year, quietly 10.5 sacks for one of the worst defenses in football. The question becomes, one more year with him in Brian Flores' defense, or do they move him to someone else? It's only $5.5 million this year. That seems wrong. That seems low.
It's not wrong. That's why he's not happy. I love how everyone's piecing this together now with Danielle Hunter. It's like, wait a second.
Well, don't they know, too, that it's 5.5 because they have twice or three times redid the contract to get the money that did exist there into earlier years, so he'd be happy then. Yeah, this is a weird one. We've been talking about this for months, and you could see it coming, and it's no surprise. And it's like people are like, oh, man, Danielle Hunter's a problem. Well, yeah, it was going to be a problem from the day the contract was restructured to pay him 5.5 in 2023. Yeah.
Well, we're going to do a couple things today here. By the way, happy mandatory minicamp week.
Oh, God.
It's one of the more celebrated weeks in the NFL offseason. We're going to send Judd down there with his binoculars. He's going to get rejected by Jordan Addison, hopefully. And you're going to be taking copious notes digitally on your phone for some OTA observations, or I guess we're going to call them minicamp musings. What are we calling these?
Sure.
Minicamp musings?
Minicamp musings is good. Yeah, we're going to have...
Mini notes?
No, I think musings. I love that word. Musings is just a great word.
Musings? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the most active. So I have a Slack channel with all my high school friends, and it has 12 different feeds from career talk to relationship advice. And one of them is just musings. Just musings. That's the name of the channel.
So if it doesn't fit into relationship advice or fantasy football or something,
it goes into there. Yeah. Just
I guess we'll just throw it in here.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's perfect though, because I just Googled the definition. Musings, a period of reflection or thought.
So Judd's going to reflect.
I'm going to reflect and think a lot.
Starting tomorrow. So tomorrow and Wednesday, we're going to try and figure this out. I guess Wednesday we could do, because you're going to be at practice, we got to figure out the write that down predictions. But so our schedule is going to be a little bit weirder in terms of when you get the episodes on Purple Daily this week. We're probably going to go live in the afternoons after practices, but we'll let you guys know. By the way, this is Purple Daily, Daily Vikings Entertainment. Just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl around here at some point before we die. And the show is presented by our friends at TCL. They have award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, home appliances. TCL brings you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. Learn more at TCL.com. And a shout-out to our friends quickly at Meadows at Mystic, Declan. Man, it is golf season. Old Macadag, by the way, I got an embarrassing story to tell at some point later, but I'm gonna take a lesson on Tuesday.
Oh boy,
it's a different story. It's not the Friday night at Target Field story, but I was so bad at a club fitting that they said go take a lesson and come back.
Yikes. Well, how about this? The Meadows at Mystic Lake offers lessons, Phil. You can go down there. You can go check out this pro shop too. You can stock up on apparel. You can get the father-in-law maybe. Even a little gift card at the Meadows at Mystic Lake. Father's Day is coming up here. Go to golfthemeadows.com to secure those tee times. They got the frequent player card too, which gives you access to 3-week advance for those tee times. And again, that pro shop, it's stock full of plenty of great stuff. You can go to golfthemeadows.com to learn more. That's golfthemeadows.com.
Yeah, kid.
19th hole, Mackie. 19th hole. Retire I did.
I want the first 18 and the 19th, but here we are.
Yeah, you know what? Forget about the first 18.
So
Mystic's got a ton of good ball, right? Go out there, get a Surly. That's all you need. I don't know why you guys are pushing it.
Is the spot over yet? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, it's a Monday. I'm being positive.
So you're going to give us later in the episode here, you're going to give us some just minicamp preview musings, which we'll get to. But the internet is full of Danielle Hunter trade ideas ever since the Ian Rappaport report came out 4 days ago. Hey, the Vikings are taking calls on Hunter. Is this just to create a leverage point for a contract getting finalized? Are they actually entertaining trades? But once that's out there, all these other fan bases are like, and these blog websites are just sharks circling in the water. Oh, man, we could fleece the Vikings for Danielle Hunter. So let's just start with this one here. This is actually from our guy, Eric Eager, who we had on the show early last week from Sumer Sports. And it's funny because we floated this exact same idea, and I'm not saying that. I think he came to this conclusion independently. I sent out a tweet with this one back in January. He sent it out a couple days ago, too. So here's the first trade idea. You guys shoot it down or accept it however you want. The 49ers receive Danielle Hunter. The Vikings receive Trey Lance under contract for 3 more years and some sort of draft pick compensation, like a day 2 or day 3 pick, like a 3rd or a 4th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you say yes to this if you're the Vikings?
Ooh. Probably not, because when is Trey Lance going to get an opportunity to play for me? And I need it's a race against his contract, because if I can't play him till next year, now he's down to 2 years left, including the 5th year option, if I'm not mistaken. So given the commitment to Kirk that remains, for Danielle Hunter, I probably don't. But keep in mind too, and I'm the guy that was all for, and I keep banging this drum, almost every move that the Vikings have made of a veteran player, which right now, of the guys that they have, traded or they have released or allowed to walk in free agency, almost every one of those moves I applauded and called for. Danielle Hunter, I'm not calling for. So, I don't feel the need to, I'm not lumping him in with Dalvin Cook or Thielen or Pat P. My feelings about him are different. Yes, he's not young, but he is a more productive player. But the Trey Lance thing right now, I don't know about that, because I guess my question is this: when am I going to, I need to know what the plan with Kirk is.
Okay, well, what if, just for fun, and I don't know, I guess if you're going to trade Kirk, and I don't think that's happening at this point, but if, just to entertain this premise, if you were going to trade Kirk, the Niners make a lot of sense, because he'd have to waive his no-trade clause to green-light it, right? How many teams would he do that for at this stage in the game?
Yes, sir.
I guess you could engage Vegas, who's having all sorts of problems now with that Jimmy Garoppolo physical, right? They had to take guaranteed money away. So they're trying to make it. Tom Brady just came in. They're trying to make a big splash. They got this new stadium, everything. And they have kind of a fart noise at quarterback with a broken Jimmy Garoppolo. Mm-hmm. So you could then turn around and, but Kirk would have to green light it. And there's I don't think there's any way that would happen. Unless it's San Francisco. So your answer would be Trey Lance sits behind Cousins for a year, and then he becomes the Vikings starting quarterback for the last 2 years of his contract, starting in 2024.
That intrigued me more in January than now, because I'm less certain about what the answer on Kirk is. And I also want to know then, how are you going to develop Trey Lance quickly enough? Because you're going to then have to turn around. I mean, let's say they make this trade and Kirk walks after 2023. Now you're going to have 2 years of Trey Lance, and then it's either going to be a mammoth contract, or he potentially walks. I find this one to be very murky right now. Okay. I'd rather get a first. If I'm going to trade Danielle, I would rather try to get a first round pick that I have in my possession, as opposed to Trey Lance, which I will fully admit is different than how I felt in January when I thought there was more of a blank canvas for how you might go about things.
Okay, Declan.
Yeah, I'm out on this. I'd rather get higher draft capital. Trey Lance is still, I know he was a first-round pick, but you just don't really know what you have there. It doesn't seem like he's getting a whole lot of vote of confidence, too, in San Francisco. It's not like he's wowing everyone in practice. I know the other options right now are Sam Darnold and a bionic, basically, Brock Purdy. But I'd rather take high draft capital than take a chance on a third-round pick plus Trey Lance. No, I need to get more for Danielle Hunter, in my opinion, so I would want more than that.
Well, actually, the word is, because he worked out with Patrick Mahomes for a few weeks, or I don't know, a couple days, whatever it was, that he looks way better at practice, which is, nice. And that could be 49ers propaganda that they're putting out, too. Well,
and keep in mind, though, we have seen this story before, Tebow being a perfect example. You change
Lance is better than Tebow, right?
Right. No, but I'm saying the fundamental flaws of your mechanics, a lot of times you can change in practice and then games start. So like I would need to know that. I would need to see him because if he's going to slip back to the mechanics pre-Mahomes workouts, then you got the same problem to try to undo. Like this is a fairly complicated issue.
It's funny because I'm still sort of interested in Trey Lance as just a buy low stock, but I feel like Hunter is worth more than a quarterback you're going to sit for a year and then he gets kind of expensive in a couple years. And
correct.
Yep.
So yeah, like if you're going to trade Hunter for a future quarterback, wouldn't you rather it just be? And again, maybe you can't get a late first round pick. Maybe that's not the going rate, and we'll get to some of these other ideas. I would rather trade. If you said trade Hunter for Lance or Cousins for Lance, I'd rather trade Cousins for Lance plus draft pick capital because then I'd have a cheaper quarterback going forward, at least for a few years, and I'd probably then re-sign Danielle Hunter with some of the leftover savings, although the savings, because you're still on the hook for like $28 million for Cousins and avoid year next year. But all right, so we're all kind of wishy-washy on that idea. Here's a few from Predominantly Orange, which is a Broncos blog, and this might tell you how other fan bases view the value of Danielle Hunter. So there's three ideas here. The first one is the Broncos received Danielle Hunter. The Vikings received 3 draft picks.
Okay.
A 4th and a 5th in the 2024 draft, and then a 4th in the 2025 draft. So you'd get 2 4ths and a 5th over the next couple of years for Danielle Hunter.
What were the terms of the Khalil Mack trade again when the Bears sent him to the Chargers? Do you remember that one? I've cited it before, but it escapes me. I think it was something like 3 draft picks.
It was higher than this, right? Wasn't it? Let me see.
I think it was, yes. And that was going to be my point. To me, that's a starting point right there.
2022 second round pick,
yes.
2023 6th round pick.
Yep.
I would need a higher pick. You just threw at me a bunch of picks, but they weren't the right picks.
Yeah, because part of this is, it's nice to have 4th and 5th rounders for depth and to package to move up in the 3rd or something. But if you want to move up in the 1st at some point for a successor to Kirk, you're going to need more than a small bag of 4th and 5th round picks. You're going to need 1st, 2nds, et cetera, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So no for me, dog.
Yeah, so no.
All right. Stop me if I get to one. It's a no for me too. If I get to one that you like here, here's 2 more ideas from Predominantly Orange. So the Broncos would get Danielle Hunter. The Vikings would get Quinn Miners, who's a 24-year-old right guard, one of the better right guards in the NFL. He's young, 2 more years of team control. Only 16 pressures allowed all year last year. For context, Ezra Cleveland and Ed Ingram combined to allow 118 pressures. So this would be a good, I think he's a Wisconsin Whitewater guy too, if I'm not mistaken. He was drafted a couple years ago. So you get a good young 24-year-old guard and a 2024 5th round pick.
What was the first draft pick you said? To the 5th? And just the guard in the 5th. That's
the
all.
Guard in the 5th.
Guard in the 5th. I'm intrigued by this one more, for sure. I would still, I would rather them get at least like a 2nd round pick minimum for draft capital.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. And plus, like, you should, and we keep saying this for years, you should be able to find guards, right? Like, go find a guard somewhere. You shouldn't have to trade Danielle Hunter for a guard. This feels like bad process to me. Mm-hmm. Would I like Quinn Miners? Would he be their best guard? Yes. Should you have to trade one of the top 10 edge rushers in the game for a guard and a 5th round pick? I don't know.
That's the thing is, you are trading, and I firmly believe that Danielle still remains this. You are trading a premium position player, and if you get a guard back, okay, that's great. And yes, the value of guards has definitely risen in recent years, but it's still not a premium position. Like, if I'm going to trade you a guy who's going to, let's say, get, I don't know, if it's a bit of an off year, 10 sacks, and if it's an on year, 16, 17 sacks like that, I again much prefer higher draft picks, higher draft capital, because then I can potentially go out with that pick if I use it and get a premium position myself in the 1st round.
Yeah, this is like in baseball trading a shortstop or a center fielder for a relief pitcher or a first baseman or something.
Who would trade their shortstop for a relief pitcher with the Baltimore Orioles and get Jim Hoey? Who would do that, Phil?
That's right. I forgot about that, but The Twins also once traded a franchise catcher, Wilson Ramos, for Matt Capps, a reliever. So they've done it a couple times. Okay, and then this is the last one from Predominantly Orange. They're definitely desperate for Danielle Hunter. So they want Danielle, but they're not willing to give up anything. So they want Danielle Hunter, and they're going to give up Baron Browning, who's a 24-year-old edge rusher. He was a third-round pick out of Ohio State a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. He had 6 sacks, 34 pressures last year. So he's like a young edge rusher with upside. And then you'd also get a 2025 third-round pick. You'd have to wait. You'd have to wait on that. Now, do they not have, dumb question, if they have a 2024 third rounder, okay, like maybe it's a conversation. But your thoughts?
This probably comes the closest of the three. I don't know enough about Browning to definitively say yes, though. I think if I was to talk to George and Sean Payton and said, yes, I will trade you Danielle Hunter, I think at the end of the day, I would say I need a second-round pick, and if he gets double-digit sacks or you make the playoffs, it becomes your first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what the thing here is? Yes, Danielle Hunter's contract is currently constituted for 2023 is not fair in the sense that he deserves more. But that being said, you're not dealing from a position of weakness here if you're Kwesi. He's under contract.
Kind of, right? I mean, he's
not. But like, is he going to sit out an entire season and forfeit every penny of that? My point is, this one's worth playing hardball on a bit to get the compensation if you're going to trade him. And we'll talk about that.
But he would only be forfeiting every penny of $5 million. That's the thing.
I know, but
to us, awesome. That'd be great to have $5 million. But to him, it's like, is it even worth it for him? This sounds crazy, but is it even worth him playing for $5 million? Or would he rather go do something else with his time?
I think he'd rather play. He's already missed in the past, 3 years now, a full season and essentially a half of a season. Long story short is, I need to get what I want back here. This is not Cook. Cook is, okay, if you could have got a draft pick, that would be cool. But at the end of the day, you're not going to really sweat that one, right? Thielen, Kendricks, they're gone. Okay. This is one where, in my opinion, I need to get something that at least resembles what I want back, or else I'm not going to make him happy and trade him because he told me he might not play.
Also, these teams like the Broncos, for instance, I get it. I get why they would be interested, but if you don't have the capital to give up a first or a second round pick, I don't want your 24-year-old edge rusher with some upside that has 2 years left on his contract. I don't really want that.
Agreed totally.
I want a first or a second round pick. That's what I would want, so that the Vikings can go and get someone. Because you can always, if you trade Danielle Hunter now, you don't need to fill his spot with their edge rusher that they're sending you who's not that good. You would just go sign Justin Houston or somebody, or go sign Ingram. There's veterans out there you could go sign for 1 year, and then you would go draft whoever you want at the end of the first round next year. So that's kind of where I'm at. Now, there's some other teams, and I'm trying to see who has first round picks next year and doesn't, but I've seen Jacksonville pop up. Who are some teams that are looking to take the next step that have a first or a second round pick in the 2024 draft? Jacksonville is a team I would engage with for sure. The San Francisco idea is a really interesting one. And they can probably make it work cap-wise because you could shove money into the future on the extension. So there's people are floating the New York Giants as a team that, all right, we're committed to winning. You got Brian Dable, you signed Daniel Jones, they're trying to win.
Yep.
So I would go to a team that has a first or second round pick, and I would be more engaged with them than these teams that don't have those picks. But we can offer you our right guard and a fifth round pick. I don't know.
Yep.
Doesn't do a whole lot.
I personally would love to see what he wants, though. So because it is very fair to tear up the last year of his contract and extend him. And if the ask is, it's going to be expensive, but if the ask is reasonable, especially from a term standpoint, okay, this is when I want to get done here. Personally, I want to get this one done. I think there's enough left in the tank that unless they have intelligence that we don't know about the neck, which I don't think is giving him a problem, since he came back from that, I think it was 2021. As far as I know, that neck's been fine. But unless they have intelligence that is some type of ticking time bomb, unlike Cook and Thielen and Peterson and Kendricks, this is one I want done. I want him back. If I'm the Vikings, I don't see a tremendous upside unless you had gone with, okay, guess what? We're stripping things down. And there seems to be, and it's been led by Florio stuff, there's this weird impression being created that the Vikings have stripped things down. No, they're not. They're getting rid of aging players. They're doing the right thing. Now, the Hunter one I would not agree with. But I don't understand why there's so much general media confusion about this.
It is funny. It's like the Vikings are literally saying goodbye to players that are on the edge of or over the age cliff. And it's being painted as, they're getting rid of their nucleus. Well, yeah, but that was the nucleus 5 years ago. This is the NFL.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if it's just casual observer things. They are better off without Kendricks, Dalvin Cook, and Adam Thielen. And Patrick Peterson. They are a better team 100%. With those guys gone from the team. And it sounds, maybe there's a leadership void. I get it. And I think Eric Kendricks has a little bit left in the tank as like a first 2 downs linebacker. And can Thielen be a number 3 receiver and the catch passes in the red zone? Those guys are still going to put up some productivity. But you can't run a bunch of dudes out there who are over the age of 30 year after year and expect to get better. So I'm with you. What a weird narrative.
Well, it's weird, and it's like every one of those guys, especially that core group, Thielen, Cook, Kendricks, they will probably go to their new teams and play a different role, right? It's going to be a different role. It's not going to be what they did here. If you're the Vikings and O'Connell, and he's smart enough to know this, you can't re-sign them, cut their contracts, and then assign them new roles. Hey, Dalvin, you're gonna be our home run guy, but other than that, you're not gonna play. He's not gonna do that here. His pride's too much, which I'm fine with. But it's just this weird. I don't understand. How often have we bitched and moaned about the fact that this team far too often has stood pat, ran it back, and it's like that's not the right way. And they finally have a front office and coach who's like, you know what? Purple Daily was right the entire time.
That's guaranteed what they're saying behind the scenes, too.
And people go crazy. But to what you're saying, Phil, people now are going crazy about, oh, man, what are they doing? Stripping it down. They won 13 games. Here's the last point, too, that I really don't get. Everyone I know who knows football, for the most part, agrees that 13 wins was rather a fluke. We've talked about this a lot. 8 or 9 wins, probably, not 13 wins. Okay. The Vikings said the same thing. So they're like, okay, we're going to strip some of this apart because 13 wins was fun, but it was a fluke. And a lot of the people that agree it was a fluke are like, how can you get rid of those guys now?
I know. That's a great point.
What are you talking about?
Like national media voices that continued to not put the Vikings in the same conversation as the Eagles, and correctly so. The Eagles and the Chiefs and these other teams now are turning around and being like, how could you do this? What do you mean? It's like, well, what do you mean? In October and November, you were not buying stock on the Vikings, and you were right. You were probably right that they weren't going to make a deep playoff run. So anyhow, let us know. Would you entertain, or what type of trade would you actually entertain for Danielle Hunter? Hit us up, Purple Daily YouTube comment section. You can tweet at us pretty much any hour of the day. Before we get to Judd's minicamp preview musings here, things that he's going to have his eye on, a shout out to our friends at Athletic Greens. AG1 is like nutritional insurance to start your day. So, by the way, I actually first heard about Athletic Greens 6 years ago on one of my favorite podcasts, and that's how I started using Athletic Greens and AG1. So it's kind of cool now that I get to tell you guys, the Purple Daily audience, about this product, which gives you 75 high-quality ingredients, important daily nutrients, brain fog lifted for me, energy levels heightened, helps with my gut health. You can either put a scoop in your water in the morning to start your day, or maybe middle of the day to fight off that 2 o'clock, 2:30 brain fog that some people can suffer from. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/purpledaily, athleticgreens.com/purpledaily. Also, while we're in the spirit of getting our health in check, how about Livia when it comes to losing weight, Judd?
That's a great point, because guess what? They are going to help you drop weight. A couple of years ago, I dropped 40 pounds. And the most important thing is they're going to help you keep that weight off. That's how the guy on the left went to become the guy on the right. Those are both sports, Dad. Those are both sports, Dad. You're saying, so what's the difference? It's the weight loss, right? Well, let me tell you right now that if you are in the market, if you've gotten on that scale or tried on some clothes and they don't fit great, I have the answer for you. And right now, the offer is this, 8 weeks free. That's right. How would you like to go into July dropping weight? You can be down 15 pounds in July. And that's just a start. And again, they're going to help you keep that weight off. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livea.com. Livea Weight Control Centers. It's worked for me. It's worked for a ton of people who watch PD. And now it can work for you. Feel great. Look great. Livea, Livea.com.
Now that you feel great, look great, look at this journey that we're taking you on here on Purple Daily. How about you get on one of those brand new Bennington pontoons from our friends at Power Lodge and Miller Marine? A marriage of throttle therapy, both fun on the land and fun on the water. So the Bennington pontoons right now are at 28,888 in celebration of the temperatures hitting 88 degrees about a week ago for the first time. You can also finance that Bennington pontoon for just $288 a month if you want to go that route. Look I can see Judd, the wind blowing through his hair, blowing through his Helga horns on that Bennington pontoon.
Sports Dad, completely relaxed, at ease. Guess what? You know what? The sports teams in this town can drive us crazy. So as Phil just said, what you need is throttle therapy. You need to get on a gorgeous summer day in that Bennington and just relax and enjoy. Watch the sunset, enjoy life, and your Bennington is going to help you do exactly that.
That's powerlodge.com and millermarine.com to check out their selection. All right, give us a few things that you're going to have your eye on. Some preview minicamp musings from Judd here.
All right, I got 4 things for you, boys.
Oh, wow.
4 things that I'm going to be watching closely, and by extension, because you are part of the family, everybody out there, you are going to be watching too. I'm going to represent you, but Purple Daily will be out there at Minicamp Tuesday and Wednesday as the Vikings have their final workouts before they go off into the summer. Hopefully everybody keeps their nose clean, and then they return in late July for training camp. All right, the first thing is an extension of what we just talked about, but it actually involves more than one name here, and that is this. Talking point 1, are we going to see Danielle and Justin Jefferson? Now, Justin Jefferson's an interesting case, but ladies and gentlemen, he has not been in Minnesota, to the best of my knowledge, for OTAs at all. I don't know when the last time he set foot in TCO was. Perhaps it was at the end of when they had their exit meetings at the end of the season after the Giants loss. But these are 2 huge storylines for different reasons. Both can be fined, by the way, if they don't, or will be fined if they don't show up. This is the only offseason thing that is 2 days. It's 2 days. It's mandatory. The Jefferson one, though, since we just talked extensively, you guys, about the Hunter situation, the Jefferson one intrigues me because you got to figure this contract is going to get done. He still has 2 years left on his current contract, but he can now, for the first time since he entered the league, negotiate a second contract. And the Jefferson one, my guess is this. There's a fairly strong chance we don't see Danielle. On Justin Jefferson, I think we see him. I think he shows up not to get fined and does not practice. So as long as he's there, I think the team can say that's enough. But my guess is we see Jefferson, but he does not step foot on the practice field. Danielle, I think there's a very good chance we don't see.
The Danielle thing seems a little more contentious now that the report leaked last week right? And someone's clearly unhappy enough to make it known that there's a gap in the 2 sides, and now trade discussions are happening. It would seem like maybe his agent is putting stuff out there, or his camp in some fashion. I can't tell on the Jefferson front. Do you get the sense that he's unhappy, or do you think this is just standard procedure and they're working on an historic non-quarterback contract? So just do whatever makes you comfortable. No need to show up until the mandatories.
Well, I think they'd like to see him, so I think that there is probably a bit of contentiousness because this contract is going to be a hard contract. Like, it's going to be, he is going to end up, I'm almost certain of this, as the highest paid non-quarterback in the entire league. But Is it contentious? Probably not, because it's going to get done. I would guess from the way that O'Connell answered the question a couple weeks ago about Jefferson's whereabouts, it didn't sound contentious, but I mean, a coach always wants his guys there. So I'm not going to downplay it completely, but yes, I don't think it's at like a point of a holdout. Yeah. I do think that this is the type of second contract, though, because Jefferson's a superstar, we rarely see. So I wouldn't just assume that it's like all of the second contracts that eventually get done. I think it's probably a little bit more difficult because the Jefferson camp is going to probably ask for things the Vikings won't give. Like there has to be a back and forth. So I would say it lies in between like 50%. It's not contentious, but I'm sure there's haggling.
Sounds like, too, his agent specifically is playing some hardball. Danielle Hunter's agent, who also represents Byron Murphy Jr., he also represents Christian Kirk, who got a humongous payday kind of out of nowhere with Jacksonville last year, too. So the agent's playing hardball. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out.
The agent has also, and I'm sure that this creates a little bit of the contentiousness between the two sides. The agent, when it comes to the Vikings, especially with Hunter, who, by the way, Hunter will not fire this guy. Like, it's come up before, and he's like, that's my guy, ride or die. But the agent has been handed his lunch by Brzezinski and the Vikings on Hunter at every turn.
And how much do the Vikings, because the Vikings aren't trying to make him unhappy or anything, the first contract was agreed upon by both parties a handful of years ago. And then the rework of the contract was in the middle of this murky injury period for Danielle, right? So I get the Vikings hesitation. And now it's like, now they have to be careful not paying for past production when they're looking at a guy who's going to be 29.
Yes.
So exactly. I don't think the Vikings are sitting in a room every day, every year, like, how do we screw and hoodwink Danielle Hunter and his agent? I think it's just the way that things have played out the last 5 years.
That second contract, though, what was anyone from the Hunter camp thinking? Like
what should he have done? I'm trying to think of the timing of it. Should they have played more hardball, or because wasn't he in the middle of a neck injury when that discussion was happening?
No, I'm saying it. So,
you're talking his first contract after his rookie deal.
Yes, I'm talking his second contract. Now, all they've done was they have shoved money in that contract up before and again. But yes, that's so when he had played, because he was what, a third round pick? When Danielle Hunter got done with his first 4-year contract, they should have banked that. And instead, they took a, God bless them, team-friendly deal, which never made any sense.
I will say real quick, Danielle Hunter in 8 seasons in the NFL has made $75 million. So it's also not like there are some players out there, running backs, if you're a running back and you get drafted in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round or something, and now it's contract time, and so you didn't get the big first round payday. There's guys out there that never get the payday. Danielle Hunter has at least made $75 million playing football. So I think sometimes we paint it like, yeah, he had an undervalued contract a few years ago, but he's also made crazy generational money. And that's including 2 major injuries in the prime of his career. Mm-hmm. So let's see what
it's a status thing.
All right, what's the second thing you're looking at?
All right, the second pre-minicamp musing is this. Opportunity knocks is the statement.
Wow.
The competition at wide receiver. There are 13 wide receivers on the roster, okay? Jefferson, in my opinion, there or not, will not practice. Addison hasn't practiced since the rookie camp, and we're told it's not a concern, but he did not take part in any OTA that was open to us, and I'm pretty sure that in the 9 OTAs, he watched them all. So, KJ Osborne's going to enter this camp as the top uncontested receiver. But after that, we have some interesting opportunities here for guys that they're going to have to plug in and play, which is great for them. I'm going to give you at least 3 names here, okay? Let's start with this one. Jalen Naylor, who I think showed some big play potential, is going to get some extensive time here. The second one, he's only 5'8", but he's a former Ram, Brandon Powell. And Powell last season with the Rams, role guy, 24 catches, 156 yards. He's also spent time with Detroit and Atlanta. And the last name, because I think this is probably a last gasp in some ways, but he's going to get a chance, Jalen Reagor.
Yeah. It's kind of shocking, actually, that he's been.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy's a first-round pick, man. In Philadelphia and here, he just can't. He can't get involved in the offense.
Well, Laquan Treadwell. What was his name? The guy that was here for just a heartbeat, but he was drafted, I think, first round by Washington. Was it Josh Doxson?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know? But I mean, you've got a lot of these guys that are seen as these saviors and then completely fall on their face.
Yeah, well, I think Jalen Naylor has a better chance to be productive than Jalen Reagor in the offense. Is that a hot take?
No.
No, I think it's reasonable. I think you'd rather have those guys on the roster than Jalen Reagor. I'd rather see what you have in Naylor, rather see what you have in Powell. Reagor, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's just a camp guy.
I agree with
Real
that.
quick on Reagor, it's kind of amazing. You've got this. What's the NFL worth now? Like the annual revenue? It's like a $12 billion thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Every franchise, the valuation of every franchise is $2, $3, $4, $6 billion. You've got these high-level scouts. It's the biggest and most, I would say, detailed sports league in the world, right? And you've got all these scouting departments that look at a guy like Jalen Reagor and say, yeah, that's one of the 20 best players in the world in this draft. And for him to be unusable offensively for 3 years, isn't that weird? Christian Ponder, like how do those mistakes happen?
The receiver thing to me is not weird because it's a huge swing and a miss. But my opinion of the receiver issue is this. Okay, just because a guy is a good athlete and looks good in college, in what is often a very simplified scheme,
Yeah.
you have to damn well know starting day one if that guy can run a route.
And we've explained this before too, because we're like, what do you mean he can't run a route? He's physically, he's a great athlete who ran a great 40 and stuff. It's about depth, and it's literally about sometimes reading off the line of scrimmage. Am I supposed to do this or that based on what the defense is showing?
Yes.
So a lot of it's just like the mental aspect of what am I supposed to do when the ball is snapped based on the look that I'm getting. And some guys just kind of freak out with that calculus staring at them. Mm-hmm. All right, number 3.
Minicamp music number 3 is this. Welcome to the new world Minnesota Vikings, and I mean the new world of running backs. So Madison's going to become the top back, but make no mistake, he is not Dalvin Cook, nor is he going to be asked to be Cook. And so the Vikings are finally, in 2023, joining the running back by committee world, which is not a bad thing, but it's going to be Madison, Ty Chandler, Kene Nwangwu, and Dwayne McBride, the 7th round pick, all getting chances. Now, here's my question, okay? And I know I've started to dismiss this now as a lost cause, but in watching the OTAs, and I watched this guy get some pretty substantial work, at least, in the last OTA that we went to. You know who intrigues me here? Because I think Ty Chandler's going to be the 2, and I think McBride eventually is going to get a chance as well. I don't know if it's going to be immediately or not. But I want to talk about Nwangwu, okay? Because 2 coaching staffs have basically said, and it's 2 very different coaching staffs. I mean, offensive philosophies entirely different. But when I watch Kene, I got to think his lack of opportunity partially comes from, I don't know if he is really necessarily in tune consistently with what they're trying to do, i.e. complete your assignment. But when you see that speed, and you also realize that the league is looking that they can do everything they can do to get rid of kickoffs, you say to yourself, okay, he's either really not worthy of being on the roster because the kickoff is damn near dead, or is part of your year 2 project, if you're O'Connell, finding ways to involve that ability. Find a way to involve, and I'm not saying a lot, but, it seemed in the OTA he was getting some work there. And I wonder with Dalvin gone, there was such a default to use Cook, right? And to use Cook in all roles. I wonder if Nwangwu could sneak his way in to some opportunities because he still has an athletic makeup that has to intrigue you.
I think my comeback to that would be there was nothing stopping that from happening last year.
Yeah.
It was, I guess you could say, well, Dalvin Cook took up 65% of the rushing touches, like the rushing attempts. So maybe now that you clear that out and you're going to replace some of that 65% with Alex Madison getting more touches, and then you're going to mix in Ty Chandler and DeWayne McBride. Maybe is there room for like 5% Kene Nwangwu experimental?
Right.
But that experimental stuff could have happened last year. So Kene Nwangwu, small sample size. He ran the ball 9 times for 14 yards last year, and he only caught 2 passes. So I don't know that there's enough sample size, but it wasn't like, all right, if we're going to give you nine carries, kid, make it happen. And he made nothing happen. His long run was 8 yards. And he really didn't do any of this in college either. He was a backup running back and a return specialist in college. So I'd like to see it, but at some point, if it didn't happen in college, it hasn't happened through 2 coaching regimes to this point. I'm done hoping for it.
Yeah.
I think if it happens, awesome, pleasant surprise. That's where I'm at with this.
Yeah, he just had 18 snaps on the entire offense last year, and with KOC and Wes Phillips still here, it's not like a new regime's coming in. Oh, there's a new secret weapon here. If he's still going to be a special teams guy, which he was last year, I don't know if he was on punt returns too. I don't know if he was doing stuff there, but I mean, he had a ton of special team snaps, and I think that's just who he is. I think he's a special teams ace. That's probably on a fringe of maybe not making this roster because of the new rules, but I don't think that there's a new level for him to get this year, a new opportunity for him either.
Yeah, I mean, punt returns would be something to add even before being like the fourth running back. I think he's very clearly the fourth running back who can return kicks, and the NFL's trying to get rid of kick returns.
He actually, right now, it's McBride is fourth. That's the intriguing one. I don't know when McBride, I think we might be putting too much on how quickly he's going to play a lot. I think eventually he does, but that's one I'm curious about. Keep in mind, I think the last OTA that I attended was the first one that he took part in as well. So he's probably a little bit behind the curve, but I'm just throwing it out there. Throwing it out there. Year 2, personnel packages change. The Vikings definitely want to use different and more diversified personnel packages offensively.
All right. We'll trust the sports dad.
Minicamp musing number 4. There is nothing secondary about it. That is the battle in the secondary and what we will see. Now,
I didn't know we were going to get the clever headlines along with the musings here. What a pleasant Monday surprise here.
I mean, when I bring the musings, I might as well bring the cleverness that come with them. This is intriguing because what we saw in OTAs, and I don't know if he was banged up and they were trying to bring him along slowly, which is it's very possible coming off the injuries that he had last year. Byron Murphy Jr. did not play a ton or did not take a ton of snaps. He took some in OTAs. I would expect that's not going to change. So what we are going to see, and the coaching staff probably likes this, what we are going to see, I think, is still a steady diet of Andrew Booth Jr. and a Caleb Evans at the outside corners competing there. And that is one of the most important things because it sounds like what they're planning on is Murphy's going to start on the outside, but of course, they're in nickel a ton, so he's going to go inside then. And Blackman will get a chance, I think, to be the backup inside. But the Vikings, as far as the outside corners go, are probably or would prefer, if they can stay healthy and hold up, that Booth Jr. and Evans consistently are the guys that come in outside. So that's going to be a huge part of factoring in here. Can they stay healthy, and where are they at in Flores' mind too? So I think the secondary and especially the corners is going to be extremely intriguing because judging from what they did last year, I could tell you this. I think decisions are going to have been made largely going into training camp.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Lewis Cine was one of them for sure, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I am excited to watch how that plays out. There's so many different combinations of things. So you've got like the depth chart battle of who are the actual starters, but then you've got how are they going to use the scheme in a unique way that we haven't seen here in a while. So it is, even without like full pad workouts, it is a fun thing to see what combinations they use and what sort of creative, clever things they do, because you can't really hide that. There's some offensive things that you just won't put out there when the media is watching or whatever. On the defensive side, you're installing a whole, like, you don't have that luxury, I guess, of holding things in your back pocket. You have to see if Cam Bynum can do what you need in a hybrid role. You have to see what Lewis Cine can do and some of these young cornerbacks. So
that's question
right.
2. Because is Lewis Seen going to get a chance to compete? Because right now it's Bynum, Harrison Smith, and the Rover, the third safety. The big nickel is Josh Metellus. So that would have been the role that I thought Seen might play. And I am curious to see if he is allowed to mix in at times first team-wise, because that's a huge one to me. Like if you've just decided Seen's still not a starter, and yes, I'm sure that the leg is playing a role here, so I'm not trying to dismiss that. But I am curious to see what type of chance he's going to get right now and in training camp as well.
So there we go. There's just a little whetting of the appetite as we send Judd out to Vikings mandatory minicamp Tuesday and Wednesday this week. And we may have a special guest in Kevin O'Connell making his return to the show sometime. We're hoping this week. So we keep you guys posted on that. Those musings presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. Federated's been around for a long time, over 100 years to be precise, helping businesses maximize their level of success through risk management tools and resources. At Federated, they're also really interested in working with next generation business owners. So if you're taking over a family company, or maybe you recently did, and you're just looking for some more guidance, Federated Insurance has all sorts of expertise and resources for you. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, dudes, there's a little Monday reckless speculation and some mandatory minicamp musings. We're looking forward to Judd's observations at practice and a fun week here on Purple Daily. Daily Vikings entertainment, yes, even in June and July for those asking. We'll see you guys tomorrow.